Welcome to the Wolf and the Doctor podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Curry, alongside my co-host, Dr. John Devereaux.
And today we have a very special guest with us. Me and this guest go back all the way to probably 5th or 6th grade, so knowing each other for quite some time. We have our celebrity chef, author, Mr. Greg Taylor. So Greg, once again, thank you for being with us today. We know that time is very scarce for an entrepreneur and a chef such as yourself, but we always start off the podcast with one of our quotes of the week. So the quote for this week comes from Thomas Keller, and he said that a recipe has no soul. You as the cook bring the soul to the recipe. So with that, what got you started in cooking or becoming a chef, or that desire to initially become a chef?
Well, I get that question a lot, but first, let me thank you guys so much for joining your podcast. I'm super excited for you, and just seeing the process and see how you guys have grown and where you're going to go. So I'm really excited about that. So thank you for that. And it has been some years, Jonathan. It's Dr. Jonathan now. It's been some years. 5th grade was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But what got me into cooking, I'll be honest with you, I was not a person who wanted I didn't know how to cook. At least I thought I didn't know how to cook. My mom was actually a chef, and she was a cook because she was a cook in the kitchen at the Metro Center in Rockford, Illinois. It used to be called the Metro Center. Now it's BMO Harris Bank Center or something like that. And she actually went into labor with me in the kitchen. So I guess I was kind of born into the industry. And so it kind of grew from there, but I believe it was 11th grade where we had, you know how the college visits come to your school. And one particular school came to my English class. And this school was Chic, the Cooking and Hospitality Institute of Chicago. This person came to our class, and I wanted to be a pharmacist in high school. Excuse me. And when I found out how much math went into science and pharmacy, I was like, yeah, I'm good on that. So she came, and I said, well, it's an easy way out, I thought. So I went to visit the school. I didn't care for it too much because they didn't have a lot of real world experience. I knew my way around the kitchen, but I didn't know my way around the conference room, like the business room. And I wanted that. And so we were on our way back home to Rockford, and we passed by this building downtown Chicago that had a clock on the corner. And I'm a huge fan of clocks. I love watches and clocks and things like that. And I said, well, let's stop there. And it turns out that it was a college, and they had a culinary program. But they didn't just have a culinary program, they also had a business program. So Robert Morris College at the time was where I decided to go to pursue my culinary career. And then it became Robert Morris University. So that opened up, more doors as far as business. And so that's where it started. So I guess I was kind of inspired by my laziness for math, because even in cooking, there's still a lot of math. There's a ton of math as far as conversions and getting measurements and cups and ounces and liters and all that kind of stuff. And so I couldn't run away from it. I just found something I enjoyed more with doing the math in cooking. So that's where it started.
That is quite the origin story. I love what you said about you were kind of born to do it because your mom went to labor, in the kitchen, and it just comes full circle that you're like now doing this amazing work in the kitchen. But we talk about it all the time about, pivoting. And it seems like you were able to kind of pivot if you wanted to initially become a pharmacist, but now you went into cooking. And you said something really good, which was, even though cooking has a lot of math involved in it, you found something that you enjoy more than you dislike the math part.
Right.
And I think
Right.
that speaks to like finding that passion.
Well, the thing that, and we'll get more into it further to the interview, but the thing about it is that whenever I have my clients or my students that I coach, I always tell them finding your passion can be so, um, it can be transformative to your life because finding something that you enjoy out of something that you hate can help you get through it. And with me finding that I enjoyed cooking more than I did math, the math really didn't seem that difficult. I didn't have any doubt that I wanted to be in food once I decided. Because even though I wanted to be a pharmacist and work with medicine and things like that, I'm still working with a form of medicine. Food can be medicine for people as far as getting over something, getting healthier. It's still for your soul. Like that's where soul food comes from. It's for your soul. So I'm still kind of, I guess I'm a pharmacist in the kitchen.
For somebody who's like looking to kind of get into like being a chef or whatnot,
Mhm.
how has that journey been for you? Is it a difficult journey to pursue? What is the schooling like?
It wasn't difficult at all. There were very early hours. There's two different ways. If you're going to go the school route, you have to be disciplined enough to be able to get up in the morning. You're going to have early mornings and late nights because you're in the kitchen all day long. Now, if anyone is going to go to school for cooking to become a chef, then I do recommend that you go to a school that also offers the business side of it
Mhm.
because without that, you can be the best chef in the world cooking in, a restaurant, but if you don't know how to run your restaurant, if you don't know how to price your restaurant, if you don't know how to do profit and loss, if you don't know how to do food costs, if you don't know how to do marketing, advertising, promotion, floor planning, menu planning, if you don't know anything about city codes and zoning and
Mhm.
just different health codes and how to maneuver your way around getting investors. Do you know the difference between an angel investor or a financial investor? There's a lot that goes into it. So I just did an interview on Clubhouse, and the what I said was that you can't be taught how to cook. Okay, no one can teach you how to cook. What you learn would be techniques. So you're learning the techniques, you're learning the skills to get around the kitchen. I mean, everyone knows how to boil rice because rice is just water and rice,
Correct.
but you don't know the techniques of cooking rice. You see what I'm saying? I didn't
Mhm.
even know how to cook rice when I went to culinary school, but I learned the technique of um, cooking rice and being able to put the lid on at a certain time, put the bay leaf in, make it um, turn the heat off, move it off the heat. There's different techniques that you learn. So if you're
Right.
going to go to school to become a chef, then you have to be disciplined enough to learn those things. Now, a lot of people ask, well, do I have to go to school to be a chef? You don't have to go to school to be a chef, but the time of getting that chef title is a lot longer because you have to put in the experience, you have to put in the time, the blood, sweat, and tears
Mhm.
in the kitchen. You have to do all of that to get the title. I really don't, I'm not offended by it anymore because I know where I am now in my career. But at one point, I was offended when who were cooks, would call themselves chefs. Just because you sell dinners at home does not make you a chef. Um, that was something that I had to get over, personally, because I'm like, well, I put in all this money and all of these hours, and I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to catch the L downtown, and I had to peel all them potatoes, and here you are selling uh beef stroganoff at your house, and you calling yourself a chef, and it was a lot, but I learned how to pivot, like you said, and actually teach those people who are home cooks how to market their business and how to promote their business, how to take proper pictures, food styling. I mean, all of that. It's a lot that you can do.
And see, you touched on so many good things that we definitely have to go back and unpack. Because
Mhm.
first, I love what you were talking about. You said like you can't be taught to become a chef. You learn those
Right.
techniques, and I think of it like, and that's why I love the term culinary arts because it
Mhm.
is truly an art form. When I
It
was learning
is.
to play the keyboard or the piano, one of the guys, I was like, I want to learn how to play like you. He's like, you can't play like me because I play the way that I feel. And the way that I
Mm,
feel, changes on different times. He's like, I could teach you the techniques, how to, play certain chord structures,
mhm.
but everybody adds their own personal flavor to it, the same way that chefs do. Now, you mentioned that there is, for our listeners, what would you say is that main difference between a chef and a cook? Because some people do think that those two terms are the same.
Well, a chef is someone that has put in time and investment as far as education and experience, working experience. So when you have working experience, that means that you have been in the kitchen and you've touched every single level in the kitchen. You've been a fry cook, you've been um,
Mm,
a cold bar, you've been a runner, you've been a expediter, you've been a sous chef, you've been an executive chef. Those are the steps that you have to go through if you're just a cook and don't go to school. But if you are a chef that went to school, if you're a person who went to school, you learn all of these steps in school in an expedited time.
mm,
Whereas, so that first example is probably about 13 years. Whereas investing time as far as education, that's about maybe a year and a half, 2 years. And then pair that with real world experience. So then, yeah, you pretty much have the right to be called a chef. It's the same thing with a doctor. I can't go and buy a white coat and put it on and then call myself a doctor. So it's the
mhm.
same thing with us. You can't just go and buy a chef coat and put it on and call yourself a chef. You need to know how to wear that coat. You need to know what every button means. You need to know with the hat, the straight hat with all the folds in it. You need to know how many folds are in that hat and what those folds mean. Each of those folds in the hat actually means that you know a different way how to prepare an egg.
Wow.
So it's
Wow.
people just put the hat on just to oh, it's funny or whatever. No, that hat has meaning to it. I like what Jonathan said. Culinary arts. A lot of people forget the arts part of it. Culinary art really is. Um, it's like a painting on a plate, and it's
Mm.
like an art form because you're creating something beautiful. When someone says, "Oh my God, it's so pretty, I don't want to eat it," then you like won that battle. Like you know you did something good. When someone tells you it's so pretty that you don't want to eat it, yeah, then I think you pretty much can call yourself, a chef because you just created a masterpiece. My food not only tastes good, but it looks good as well. Um, because I've learned different techniques on how to photograph my food, how to layer my plate. I don't just plop something down um, in front of you. I create an experience that you'll be able to have when you eat the food. That to me is the difference between a chef and a cook. That's what makes me stand out more.
And I can attest to that. A few years ago, we were actually, I think this is actually when we reconnected. You were doing an event as a chef in Rockford, Illinois, and I was doing photography
Mhm.
for, I think it was Jazz on the Riverfront. So it was like an outdoor experience. And I remember seeing the stuff that Greg had already prepared. And even just scrolling through your Instagram, like I wouldn't want to touch those things just because it does look so perfect. Everything is in place. And not only is it you're touching the senses of taste, but like the visual aspect of it.
Oh yeah,
And
oh yeah,
I'm
definitely.
assuming, yeah, like you said, you have to be really intentional with that. So is that what you learned on the business side while you were in school, all about presentation?
Presentation. I had a chef. I had a chef in school. His name was Chef Scott, and he actually had a heart attack because he was the type of chef that'll throw stuff at you. Um, and he was a stickler on presentation. And even to this day, I don't do anything without thinking about chefs, Chef Scott or Chef Lorette or Chef Laura. It's like so many people. Anything that I do today, I think about my experience in college. Now, with presentation, what you're talking about is people eat with their eyes before they do with their mouths into their stomach. So if it doesn't look good, they're already putting into their mind that it's not going to taste good. Oh, that looks
Mm,
disgusting. But if something looks really good, you're going to want to try it. And so then it just takes the mental off of the experience that you're about to have. Because now it's like, okay, it looks good. So I know it tastes good. Anything that looks good makes you feel some type of way.
How important has networking been for you in your career?
Um, I'll tell you this, networking, there would be no career without networking.
hmm
Um, I found out early on, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Because there were people that were put into positions a lot faster than I was because I had the education, I had the experience. Um, there was someone, I was working at a nightclub. I won't say the name because I really loved this particular business, and the owner of the club was one of my biggest inspirations in my career. But uh, there was a young lady that she was, I think her experience was like managing a Taco Bell or something like that. Nothing wrong with Taco Bell, but it's on a whole different level than a nightclub. And she got this huge management position at the nightclub. And I'm like, how did she get that? But it
hmm
was because of she knew so many people that were making a decision on who to hire. So
Mm.
that's when I experienced very early on that it's not what you know, it's who you know. Because you hear it all the time, your net worth is your network. And I'm nothing without my network because I'm still getting calls from people to do certain things, and even getting this call from you all to be on your podcast. I don't know who's going to be listening to your podcast. I have no clue. You guys don't even know who's going to listen to your podcast. You create a great product and you put it out there. Diddy could be listening to it. President Obama could be listening to it. Next thing you know, he's adding it to his 2021 favorite list.
hmm
You know what I'm saying? You just never know how it's going to happen. And that's the beauty of networking. You never know. The best thing I could tell anyone in this industry about networking is you always have to be prepared. Like you have to be ready because you never know when you need to use that 30-second interview in front of someone or in the line at Starbucks or wherever. Of course, it's a lot different now with the pandemic and socially distancing. So you have those different apps, you have those different group chat rooms and stuff like that where you can present yourself in a way that networking is going to help you.
And you spoke about like being prepared, and you've been talking so far about these different opportunities that you've had
Mhm.
doing the radio show in the nightclub in Vegas, and all of these things that have led to you having major success in your career. I remember when
Mhm.
I started following you on Instagram and I'm scrolling down and I see you have a picture with Obama. So, and then I'm like, okay, that would be probably at the top. I'll probably repost that picture every single day, but like
Right.
that speaks to like the opportunities that you had. And I'm assuming that's,
Mhm.
a testament to you being prepared and climbing the ranks. So along your journey with these major success that you have had, what has been that key to constantly climbing and constantly being awarded these opportunities
Mhm.
that really has helped to set you apart from other chefs in your field?
Um, I think that I definitely had some people praying for me. I had some people encouraging me behind the scenes and keeping me grounded because meeting someone like President Obama, and like you saw that one picture, I didn't even bother to post the dozens of times that I've interacted with this man, and him knowing my family by name, and him knowing about the birth of my daughter, and his wife being as gracious as she is, and speaking to me first when she comes into a room over anybody, like those types of
Wow.
experiences. I don't really share those because when I shared just one picture, people were just, people are going to make their own, preconceived notion, whatever about you. I had somebody tell me that I photoshopped myself into a picture with him. And it was just kind of like, And so they were like, oh, well, you wasn't the only one that was cooking for him. Well, of course not. This man is huge. Like he has dozens of chefs and dozens of people that's helping him along the way. But then again, those people who make those types of remarks are people who don't understand teamwork. They don't understand that it does take a village to produce something amazing like that. So to answer your question, me having that type of interaction, that type of meeting, um, and preparing myself, I had to make sure that I was grounded and mentally grounded to be able to be in a room like that. Because
Hmm.
so many times I see people who are eager to get into the room, but then they get in there, they're not ready. It's like you don't even know how to properly pull out a chair to have a seat. So how are you going to want to bombard your way into this room? You don't even know how to really sit down or sit up straight in the room, to be noticed and to be recognized. But then also, I'll say this: a lot of folks don't really know how to be in the room because they feel as though they have to sit at the table. Whereas with me, I'm going to make noise in the room wherever I'm standing, wherever I'm laying, wherever I'm sitting. I don't care what part of the room I'm in. I don't care if I'm just hanging through the door. You're going to hear my voice.
Things like that, it don't come overnight. It take a lot of grooming and experience and adversity to kind of become the person that you are.
Mhm.
What would you say if you can kind of look back at when you first started to where you are now? What
Mhm.
is some of the mistakes or things that you were perceived as failures that you encountered that kind of made you into like this celebrity show?
I think I'll say this: the failures that I've had would break the average person, um, and they broke me. But it's so important to have a support system to be able to come and take you back up, to be able to come and super glue you back up and put you back together. So the difference is a lot of people were can be broken by those failures, but then not a lot of people have someone to come back and put them together. And
Mm.
what put me together, I'll never forget this. I There was a position that I had. I was working for a producer in Beverly Hills, and I don't really give a damn about him, hearing about this because he was a total jerk. But I was able to do events for Rihanna. Her Diamonds Ball was actually the infrastructure and the setting up of this major event was done by myself and my team. Her very first Diamond Ball, and she does it every year now. So because I worked for this person, I was able to do Rihanna's Diamond Ball. I was able to work with Halle Berry and Tom Cruise and Charlize Theron and James Cameron, the creator of Titanic and Avatar. Um, I was able to work with Nicole Murphy, um, so many different people. And there was something that happened to where I lost my position. I lost my job. It put me into um, this crazy headspace. I was living, this luxurious lifestyle. Um, and I was posting a lot on social media, and I was, on top of the world for some people. And this particular thing happened. I lost my job. I had to move. I had to move out of my house. I ended up living with one of my favorite cousins in her studio apartment in freaking Los Angeles. So it was small. um, and I had to
Yeah.
I had to pretend like I was leaving at the end of every week because her lease didn't allow a person to stay over a week. And so I had to pretend like I was leaving every week, and I had to go away for a night or a couple of nights. And where was I going? Like, I didn't have anywhere to go. So at the time I had a car that I was renting from a rental company. So I had to sleep in my car for a couple of nights. And um, I met with a friend of mine, Joseph, and Joseph Pearson. He's actually running for alderman in Rockford, and he was in LA. I met with him. We went to breakfast. Now, no one knew. I've never shared any of that with anybody, so you guys got an exclusive on that.
All right.
Nobody knew it was that bad, because I was just living wild and free. Like I was working for Diddy, I was doing all kinds of stuff. I wasn't saving any money. I was just blowing money on girls. It was crazy. So when I didn't have anything, I hit rock bottom. For me, I went into a depression. That's when I found out that I dealt with mental illness and depression and stuff like that, because that failure broke me and all of this stuff came out. But what put me back together, let me round this up. What put me back together was Joseph. We were at breakfast, and I think I paid for it. We were at breakfast, and he said to me, he saw something was going on. He said to me, because he knew exactly what happened, he said, Greg, you are not a stranger to God. You can go to him and ask for anything that you want, and he will answer you because you are not a stranger to him. You have never forgotten him. You have never forgotten to give him glory, praise, honor. You are not a stranger to God. And so, still to this day, man, still to this day, I even say, I'm not a stranger to God. I know I can go to him and ask for anything. And I kid you not, after I said that, my mind got right. Um, I moved back to Illinois because I got the offer to come and work for the person who got me in the door with President Obama. It was just, things just took off. So a failure shouldn't stop you. It should teach you, and it should build you up. That's what I would tell anyone that is dealing with that.
And from this story, it just seems that you've dealt with so much adversity. You've experienced the highs, you've experienced the lows as well, and everything in between. Is that something that has kind of motivated you to also start teaching chefs
Oh
the ins
yeah,
and outs?
definitely. Because I'm not the type of person that's gonna, you know how you see on Facebook somebody will say, "Oh my God, where did you get that from?" Oh, I'll inbox you. No, I'm gonna tell you where I got it from because I don't want everybody else to have to be inboxing me and bothering me and stuff like that. So I hate when people do that. It's like you got a pair of shoes. You obviously got them from a shoe store. Just tell us where you got them from. So,
Yeah.
excuse me. With me, um, anything that I learn along the way, I try to make sure that I learn it in a way that I can share it with someone else.
Mm.
Um, I may not be able to use that information that I'm being told or that I'm learning, but I'll keep it in my head because I know someone out there will want to use it one day, and it can
Yeah.
help them more than it helped me.
And how do you deal with like with sharing so much in a very competitive field, as Glenn mentioned earlier?
Mhm.
How do you be accessible to people, but then also be able to maintain your business and maintain that that's profitable?
Well, that I mean it's tricky because it is super competitive. But one thing that I've learned from my mentor, Akeshi, is people will buy from you because they like you better. They like your story. They like how you treat them. No one can treat Jonathan the way that I'm going to treat Dr. Jonathan. You know what I'm saying? No one is going to treat Glenn like I'm going to treat Glenn. So you guys may want to support me because of how I treated you, how I respected your platform, how I, did something for you. So it's the same thing with business. Um, the food industry is very competitive, but say I open a restaurant and me and Terry have the same type of restaurant, but Terry doesn't like to clean his bathrooms in his restaurant. Greg's restaurant has clean bathrooms, clean silverware, like he pays attention to the details of the business and the experience, the overall experience. Terry stays in the kitchen and doesn't come out, whereas Greg comes out and at least says hi and goes back in the kitchen. Those are experiences. So when a person is doing something exactly the same as you, there are a million podcasts out there probably with the same type of content, but they just like the way you guys carry your interviews because it's more personable, it's more relatable, it's not a whole lot of glitz and glam, it's just straightforward. Um, the same thing with YouTube videos. I have some students who are starting YouTube pages. I tell them get to the point of what you're trying to do. Because me personally, if I'm looking at how to make something real quick, I don't want to look at a 13-minute video on
Mhm.
how to boil an egg. You know what I'm saying? Just show me really quickly and boom, it's done. So now I got more views, which is pushing me to the top. So it's just all about how you treat people, and you can't be concerned with competition. You know, some competition is good because it keeps you on your toes, it keeps the creativity flowing, but don't let it stop you.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like a lot of people just let things stop them. And when we look at 2020, right, in its entirety, and everything that happened with it, from COVID to people losing jobs, one of those industries that kind of got hit hard was the event industry, right?
Oh my
Just because
gosh, yeah,
people can't gather together like they did the year
right.
prior. Uh, what would you say was one of the things to help you kind of navigate through those
Mhm.
tough times?
Well, the thing with 2020 is that it did stop. It stopped a lot of business for me. I lost one of my biggest clients, which is why I'm a stay-at-home dad now because he was my full-time client. So I had something to do every day. Whereas now I just have different gigs here and there and just doing different things. So I had to create another stream of income for myself. I was able to finish my second cookbook, Friday Night Fish Fry, which is going to be released soon. I was able to create virtual cooking classes for people who didn't know how to cook or who don't know how to cook. I was able to conceive an idea and put a plan behind it of opening my home economics academy. When I was in middle school, we had home economics, which is
Hmm.
what kind of gave me the foundation to do what I'm doing now. It's like my nephew doesn't. I won't put him out there like that, but there are some
Mm.
kids out there who don't know how to wash clothes, who don't know how to um, boil water. They don't know how to make Kool-Aid. They don't know how to make lemonade. There is no hustle or entrepreneurship minds like we used to have. We used to have lemonade stands. We used to go get
Yeah.
grab our granddaddy's shovel and have snow shoveling businesses, $10 for a driveway or whatever. But you was the only kid that had $100 in your pocket because you shoveled 10 driveways and you
Mhm.
saved it and you bought yourself something. That has kind of just dissolved into, the air. And so I want to bring that back. I was able to create this idea um, of creating this academy for young students to be able to, once the pandemic is up, be able to come and learn these techniques, learn all these things. So yes, you hear it a lot, but I had to pivot my business. I had to create different streams of income. And it's still taking off, but it's helping.
And that's something that me and Glenn talked about this on our last episode. 2020 has definitely taught us how to be versatile in our businesses. And, just because one thing shuts down, like you said, the full time gig, was lost due to the, pandemic. But from that, you were able to create these other, ventures that
Right.
I will say like are very needed. I like the home ec, as you stated, is like something that is kind of lost on this future generation as
Mm,
well. And like even the virtual cookbook, I mean not the virtual cookbook, but the virtual cook classes, that
mhm.
gives, for everybody who's, quarantined, now that's a date night idea. And
Right.
Yeah.
then just based off of the previous things that you've done, I know that that experience is going to be, top of the
Mhm.
shelf.
Yeah, it is, and that's another thing too is that I'm blessed enough to be able to have um, a pretty intense resume to where I can put some oomph behind the
Hmm.
virtual classes. It's like you're learning from someone that has cooked for Middle Eastern royalty, someone that has cooked for many people in different countries and has done so many different things and so many experiences. Like, why wouldn't you want to do that? Like, you're getting this class that you would normally pay thousands for. You're getting it for a fraction of the cost in your comfort of your own home, and someone that's a one-on-one is personal. I tell people this all the time because I still do consulting for restaurants and stuff like that. And I had a client who just would not listen to me like 4 years ago. He didn't listen to me. I told him, I said, deliveries and curbside are going to be the way of restaurants. Mark my words, delivery, curbside. People don't want to get out of their car. They want someone to come out and bring it. You got a whole lot of lazy girls who don't want to bring the food out to the cars. You got to get rid of that. You need to have delivery service. It's so simple to set up delivery for restaurants. All you have to do is make sure you're hiring someone who has a vehicle that is insured. Now, you can hire them as an employee because now you can pay them what the waitresses get paid. And now they can also keep the tips from the deliveries. Don't have them split the tips. Now they're making more money. They're covering the cost of their own vehicle, their own insurance. You're getting an insurance that's going to cover the entire thing. And you're also paying for their gas. Like you're going to make all that money back anyway. Just tax on an extra $2, $1.50 to whatever they're buying for delivery costs. That's going to pay for the gas of the vehicle. He didn't want to listen to me at all. Now he's closed.
Mm.
Oh,
He
wow.
closed at the beginning, like really the middle of the pandemic. So July, I think he closed. He shut down. Um, so any business out there that's listening right now, if you did not learn anything from 2020, you don't need to be in business.
Yeah.
Facts.
You
I
don't need
like how
to
you
be in
put that so
business
blunt.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need to be in business because if you're sitting there, you're trying to figure out why you closed. Think about what you did not do.
Yeah. I agree, man. And John and I always talk about all the time. It's like, 2020 taught everybody how to pivot, right?
Yeah.
It's either you went with how everything was going or you learned from it. I was talking to John last week about just like things that I've learned in my past and
Hmm.
career wise that kind of helped me out. And I'm like, yo, that right there kind of helped me to mold me into the person I am today. What
Hmm.
would you say is a lesson that you learned over your career that kind of helped to shape you to the person that you are?
Well, I'll tell you this. It's a two-part answer because one, to answer the statement that you made, or just to piggyback off of that, and then to answer the question, what I learned over my experience is that I can't, you have to know which way to pivot. You can't just pivot because
Mm.
in football, if you pivot that way, you're going to get your ass knocked off. If you pivot this way, you might be able to make the tackle or catch the ball or whatever. So you have to know on which foot you need to pivot on.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's what's going to help you the most. Use your past experiences as a way to help you right now. So anything that I'm doing, um, I took my past experience with restaurants, okay, and I put it into a new project that I recently, well, about 2 years ago, bought the rights to and created, which is called Rockford Restaurant Week. It's so simple. It's such a simple thing. Chicago has it, Baltimore has it. Everywhere has a restaurant week, but Rockford didn't have a restaurant week. And I said, well, that sounds kind of crazy. So I sat on it for like a year, and then I did my research for another year. And so then that third year, I bought the rights to it. I got the domain. I got everything in order, and I started to introduce Rockford Restaurant Week to local chefs and local um, restaurant owners. Of course, they didn't take to it because it was something new. They never heard of it in this area. Like, who is this doing it? I didn't tell anyone that I owned it because I didn't want people to do that whole black white thing. I was just like, I don't want, whatever. Um, and so there were a few restaurants that joined on and liked it, but then all those companies that I went to try to get sponsorship for certain things, all of a sudden now they're on my phone. Hey, who's doing this restaurant week thing? Like we want to be a part of this, but really they wanted to take it from me
Mm.
and they wanted it for themselves.
Mm.
They wanted to profit off of it. So if anyone comes to you because they want to profit off an idea that you have, then you know you can make money. But you have to use your past experiences on how you're going to maneuver in business now and make this idea really work for you. So I'm happy to say that Rockford Restaurant Week is still owned by myself and my company, and we're doing amazing things with growing it, and we're learning every day. But we're also keeping in mind that we're here for those other small business owners, not just the big franchises.
I like how you talked about the value of the idea. It
Mhm.
reminds me of I was listening to an interview I think with Master P. He said like when, and I'll probably get this number messed up, but the analogy still sticks. Where he said like he was offered $1 million for like a record deal, and he turned it down. And people looking at him crazy, like they just offered you $1 million. He's like, well, if they're willing to pay me 1 million, I must be worth at least 10 million. So
Hmm.
when we're valuing ideas, sometimes we have to take that into account. And like Greg, what I love about what you said was that you said you had the idea, you sat on it for a year, just kind of mulling it over, and
Hmm.
then you didn't just rush into it. You said you spent a year doing the research behind it. And a
Yeah.
lot of times that's where people mess up with business. You get an idea and now you got that initial, energy to just want to go and, tackle it, but you're not doing your
Hmm.
due diligence behind it that's going to help it to be sustainable, once you actually start the footwork. And then if you don't
Yeah.
have those systems in place, it gets easy for that idea to just kind of die off. So I think there's, so much wisdom in just those simple statements. Think about it, do your research, then execute.
Right. You have to, because when you just jump out there and present something, you're leaving the door open for someone to come in and take it from you. You're leaving the door open for someone to come in and just kind of destroy what you have created. The research that I did was researching other hashtags. I was Googling phrases, all of that stuff. I looked around to see if people even really wanted this, if Restaurant Week was something that they wanted. And truly it was, but no one knew how to start it. There was a few people that I saw were saying, "Oh, we should have this, we should do this," and it that was like 5 years ago. They didn't do anything with it. So for me, I wanted to be able to come in and create something that everyone would be able to be a part of, but I wanted that idea to be as clear as possible because I didn't want to
Mhm.
have to explain it. If you have to explain your idea after it comes out of your mouth, then it may be too difficult for someone else to understand.
Ooh.
So you might want to go back to the drawing board and redo it.
And you mentioned something earlier in the conversation about the books that you are publishing, right?
Hmm.
I grew up on cookbooks. My grandmother, she lives by them.
Hmm.
Every time you look up, she's grabbing it out of that big cabinet with all the cookbooks and the books about the medicine. Just all of that, right?
Hmm.
How has the process been for you, for creating that, and writing the book?
Well, I'll tell you this: my first cookbook was horrible. It was a great idea, great concept, but I was impatient, and so I rushed through it. Um, it was self-published, but the printing company that we used was horrible. Like it came out as if I went to like Kinko's or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, it was horrible. So it was like things weren't straight. But that's because I didn't have a copy editor. That was because I didn't have someone. I didn't get samples when the printing was done. I just told them, oh, just go ahead and print up 200 copies, and we'll sell it. Blah blah blah. Not realizing that that was the wrong thing to do. Now the second book, um, I made it an ebook, and I hired my own personal food stylist. Even though I'm a food stylist, I still hired someone else that could take photos because in business, you have to be able to understand that there is somebody out there better than you. Thinking like that will keep you on your toes and keep you on top. Um, so when I knew that I was going to be creating an ebook, I wanted the pictures to be absolutely amazing. I wanted the photos to be so mouth-watering that you couldn't help but to easily buy this, this book. So I learned from that, and I learned from my mistakes. I really did. I learned from the mistakes that I made, and I would suggest that for people too.
I think we have all learned from the mistakes that we've made over the years. And going back to something that you did mention earlier, that you are a stay-at-home dad.
Hmm.
Now, in the summertime, since I teach in the summertimes, I'm normally home since I'm off work, and I'm a
Hmm.
stay-at-home parent. And with the pandemic, I know Glenn as well as a stay-at-home
Hmm.
parent. I'm doing most of my son's education stuff while my wife works her 9 to 5, and you as well. So how has that been, balancing being a parent and also running a business as an entrepreneur?
It's not easy. I will say that. But I've had some of the most amazing ideas just from watching my daughter run around or get into something. Um, she knows. that she can get anything out of me. And it's so funny because at 1 years old, like 1 year, like a 1 year old knows that she can get anything she wants if she acts a certain way. If she cries, if she looks at me a certain way, if she comes and lays, because she'll lay her head on my, side or my leg or whatever, because she knows I'm gonna just give her whatever she want after that. And it's just crazy. Like you only won, and you already playing the game. Like the hell, what's going on? So I mean, it's just, it's crazy. It's a blessing. I can't really say that I enjoy every single day of being a stay-at-home dad, and it's just honest because there are times when I really want to get something done as far as business that I know is going to bring in, more income. But then at the same time, I don't just trust everybody watching my child either. So I know I have to sacrifice somewhere. Um, and finding the proper daycare service, finding the proper time to be able to, um, conduct business. Whereas with me, it's either super, super early in the morning, I have to get up, or I'm gonna be up late at night. But I can't get anything done while she's awake. I just can't.
Wow. Well, let me ask you then,
Hmm.
when uh, you look at people like an author, right?
Uh-huh.
And usually when they get into like a roadblock and they can't, produce or write anything, they get the writer's block. For you as a chef, how do you gain the inspiration? Because essentially, your cooking and everything that you do has to come from within, right? What inspires you to keep cooking and come up with different type of dishes?
I'll be honest with you, Glenn. I go to the movies. I
Hmm.
watch a movie. I love being in a movie theater. I love the experience of a movie theater. Um, so I'm hating this whole pandemic, but at the same time, I'm trusting the process. But I um, I don't necessarily like going to Instagram because it's a lot of people who are super successful on Instagram and selling their cookbooks, selling their recipes, and their food just looks so greasy and just like sloppy. Um, and it just it baffles me because these people, these are like beauty influencers who are all of a sudden chefs now, and they're using their audience, and I can't be mad at it because they're using their audience to get paid. And I can only respect that. But it's like you are a beauty influencer, you are a fashion person. What do you know about food? And it's not what they know about food, it's they know their clientele.
Mm.
Yeah.
They know their following. So it's like if I'm this beauty influencer, I'm saying to myself, look, they may like my clothes, but I know these girls like to eat too. So I'm gonna create some, I'm just gonna make some cooking videos because for some reason a lot of young women nowadays and young men too don't know how to cook, and they see an Instagram reels video or something of somebody just chopping up, an edited video, and they're making Alfredo or something like that. It's like common that Alfredo and shrimp and steak is what people make. It's like so many more recipes that you could do other than shrimp, but they do that, and that's all they know how to do. Um, So they're going to buy a cookbook from a beauty influencer because I already buy her products as far as clothing. So what's a cookbook? Like I trust her other products. I could trust this cookbook too. And so they sell 18,000 copies in one day. Like y'all laughing, but I know this
I,
for a fact.
yeah, I believe
Yeah,
it.
I know.
Like I'm literally beefing with this person right now because I'm mad. Like, how did you do that? 18,000 copies in one day when you be inboxing me, asking me for help with your
Yeah,
recipes. Like, I don't get it, but I'm happy for her.
yeah.
And see, that's the interesting thing with like social media. social media is able to allow us to network and, get our products out there in front of a lot of different eyes, but then it also increases the level of competition from people that wouldn't necessarily be your competition in the real world, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like Greg was saying, somebody who could be selling lingerie, like, oh, by the way, buy my cookbook. And
I have no idea how she did that. I honestly have no idea because this you are so right, Dr. Jonathan. It's so accurate that you don't expect competition to pop up over here. Like I wasn't even, it was like a blitz. A total blitz happened. And I'm the type of chef, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I know it's other chefs out there. Oh, well, what God has for you, he has for you. Yeah, that's true. But I'm just being honest right now. I did not see that coming. I didn't see it coming. But it also tarnishes, it hurts the other chef, the true chefs, because
mm,
it's like that's what you all are going to accept now because you think that that's the norm. You think that that's
mm,
how you're supposed to cook this food when that's not it. So when we show you how to cook it and we're actually doing all the steps, you're saying, oh, that's too long. I don't want to do it. I want to do it this way. Well, that way is not right. This way is right. So it's hurting us. So when people put out their photos of their food on social media and they say, oh, I'm cooking this, I'm cooking that, come get your bowl or come get this. Okay, we're not mad that you're doing that. We're just mad that you're not doing it the right way
mm.
because you're taking the easy way out. So then now it puts a bad taste in people's mouths because it's like, okay, I've had gumbo before and it was I ain't like it, so I don't want to try yours. Well, why don't you want to try mine? Because of that one bad experience you had? So that's how I feel about that.
Do you think that it's important for you look at an influencer, right?
Uh-huh.
And now they're all of a sudden they're a chef now. So they're
Right.
now in a different lane than they initially started with. Do you
Mhm.
think it's important for people who already, they're cooking or doing whatever to expand their lane as well to grab more clients?
I have to remain focused on what I'm doing. And if I know that this is my lane, I'm focusing on that. Yes, I can turn and, you know, I can switch lanes every now and then. But for me to focus in this lane, you guys, even the wolf and the doctor, like you guys are interviewing me right now because you see that I'm focused and grounded. I have a like an expertise in what I'm doing. You're not going to go to somebody that's a booty influencer and be like, "Oh, I didn't know you did food." Like, okay, well that's great, but I'm talking to you about beauty. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how it is. If you to answer your question, anybody out there, listen, don't switch lanes just because everybody else is switching lanes. Stay where you are. If the pace is right, just drive in that one particular lane. You don't have to switch lanes and go and jump just because.
Yeah, and it sounds like like even for you, Greg, like even though you are a chef, you've been able to, I don't want to necessarily say like switch lanes, because all you're doing is like evolving on your already, your experience with doing the virtual classes, with doing the cookbooks, with doing the home ec stuff. All of that stems from your expertise
Exactly.
and experience
Exactly.
from all those years, even the consulting. So it's like all in line with what you're doing versus
Man,
someone. Yeah.
time out, time out. You got it. You got exactly what I'm trying. That's what I try to explain to people. Like everything that I'm doing, any idea that I have, the foundation of it comes from home economics. It comes from food. It comes from planning. It comes from designing. It comes from one core place. I'm not, you will never see me selling clothes. I just can't, like, I can't do it. You have to be able to align what you're trying to do with the brand that you're trying to create. Your brand has to tell a story before a person even knows you.
Mm,
So, you cook all day and you've done everything from, cooking from with celebrities to cooking
Hmm.
or restaurants to, cooking for communities.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, how does someone still take the joy in cooking for themselves and their family? Do you still take that joy in that?
Um, I don't. I honestly don't cook at home. Um,
Hmm.
Oh, wow.
when it comes to family gatherings, I prefer not to cook because I still get beat up. Like no one in my family, I won't say no one, maybe I have maybe two or three people in my family that respect me as a chef. Everyone else, that's not possible. They don't see me as a chef. They see me as, my nickname. They see me as the kid, on the scooter. They don't see me as a chef running a business.
Hmm.
Okay.
Mm.
A soon to be multi-million dollar business. They don't see that. They just see Lil Greg. They just see, kid that like popsicles. They don't see they don't see me working for the Obamas. They don't see me working for Nancy Pelosi. They don't see me working for Joe Biden. They don't see me, doing things for Rihanna. They don't see me doing things for, um, world leaders. They don't see the mayor inboxing me asking me how to cook this because he wants to make his wife a special dinner or something like that. They don't see all of that. They just see their cousin, their brother, their nephew, their uncle, whatever. They don't see what you guys see. Um, so I stopped um, anticipating that. I stopped looking for that, and I found it elsewhere. I found it in my work. I found it in my hustle and my grind. Because at some point they'll come around, but I'm not waiting for it. But no,
Mm.
I don't cook at home that often. And when I do cook at home, I'm usually messing up. Honestly, I'll burn something, or like I tried to make some fried chicken. I can't remember when. I think it was for Thanksgiving, and I burned the. I never burn the chicken when I'm working, but when I'm at home, I'm more nervous because I want my family and friends to experience what everyone else that's paying me is experiencing.
Mm.
And that makes me nervous and throws me off of my game because it's like I'm searching for their approval as a chef and their respect as a chef, but I know it'll never happen. And I'm okay with that.
And as we start to wrap this up, what are some of the ways that our listeners and viewers can support your business? Any of them?
Well, you can support by following, you can support by sharing, um, and by leaving comments. Those are all things that don't cost you a dime.
Hmm.
On my social media, everything is at Chef Greg Taylor. Go to the website. You can support by going to the website. I have a store that you can buy things at.
Hmm.
But if you can't afford it, then don't worry about it. Just share it with somebody else. They don't know if you bought it or not.
Right.
They just know that you're sharing something. You can support by helping me with the movement of trying to get this academy open. If you know of someone who has a child that enjoys cooking, tell them about me. Share my flyer. Let them know, hey, this chef is, a celebrity chef or whatever. Which I don't call myself that. You guys call me that. But this person has cooked for this person and has done so many things. You know, um, little Timmy or whoever can take his cooking class and share that, or email me. Let me know that you're paying attention, that you're out there.
And is that the new book that the ebook, is that still available?
It's not available yet. It's going to be available this month for sure, on my website, chefgregtaylor.com. You can purchase it there. It's an instant download. You don't have to wait for it. You pay for it, boom, you'll get a download for the ebook. But that's coming out. And there's so many, videos that we're filming. My biggest goal right now is to build, of course, this Home Economics Academy, but also to build my studio. I need a bigger studio. I need a place where I can actually film my cooking shows, my cooking videos, my virtual cooking classes. I want to be able to have that. It's pretty much like the Tyler Perry of culinary, and like Food Network. Because one of my experiences is that I learned that when you have a show on Food Network, or when they approach you, any cooking channel, and they want you to do a show, if your show is not in your own studio, filmed on your own time, you don't own that content.
Mm.
They own the content,
Mm.
so they can profit off of that. So I said, I respect the offer. I'm have to decline. I want to have my own show that I produce, that I build in my set, my studio, with my film crew, because now I own that content and I can shop it to anybody. So that's the goal. That's the business side of cooking.
I love how you're so big on that ownership,
Mhm.
ownership. And I think with that, it shows how much you believe in the ideas that you have. Because somebody
Yeah,
can easily be like, okay, it's a quick check. I'll come up with another idea. But I think when you truly believe in something, you'll protect and hold on to it at all costs.
yeah,
So I'm definitely seeing that with a lot of the different things that you have going. And I want to make sure like our listeners and viewers, like Greg said, follow him on Instagram. Do those little things that can be done for free that cost you nothing but can help, that exposure. And I like saying like you're a celebrity chef because sometimes people don't know how major you are unless they know the people that you have dealt with.
right.
So, so if he can cook for Rihanna, he can cook for me, something like
Right.
that. So, that's why I like to look at it. So make sure to go out and support Greg with all these different ventures. We want to thank Greg for his time and the experience and the wealth of knowledge that he's shared with all of us. And we'll see you guys next week.
And that's another episode of the Whoopin' the Doctor podcast. Again, I'm your host, Glenn Curry, alongside my co-host, Dr. John Deppel.